All right, let's talk about one of the most mysterious human experiences out there, the near-death experience. We're going to dive deep and uncover the hard science that's pulling this topic out of the realm of the mystical and into the world of, well, actionable logic.
So, let's just start with this wild idea. We always hear about near-death experiences as these spiritual, almost otherworldly events, right? But what if there's something else entirely? What if it's actually a biological mechanism, a kind of cognitive upgrade that gets triggered by extreme, life-threatening stress?
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to start by looking at what's actually happening inside the brain when it gets pushed right to the very edge of life.
Now, this isn't just the lights going out. Not even close. You know, as the body is failing, the brain doesn't just shut down. It kicks into this phase of incredibly intense and surprisingly structured internal activity.
This intense activity shoves the brain into a state that scientists have started calling neural ambiguity. So what does that mean? Well, basically, key parts of your brain, like the orbital frontal cortex, completely lose their compass. They can't tell the difference between what's happening in the real world outside and the super vivid world being generated inside your head. But here's the kicker. The brain's recording systems are still on, and they encode this entire experience not as some fuzzy dream, but as a real episodic memory with all the emotion and detail that comes with it.
So what is this state, really? You might think it's just chaos, the brain firing off randomly. But it's not. It's actually a highly structured process, almost like a reboot sequence that neuroscientists are finally starting to map out.
And the core concept that helps explain this is something called bifurcation. It's this complex moment, this threshold, where the brain isn't just on or off. It's rapidly flipping between unconsciousness and these super intense, conscious-like experiences. Think of it like a computer that's been pushed to its absolute limit, and it starts toggling between states to try and find some kind of new stability.
And this right here just lays out the difference so clearly. In our normal, everyday life, there's a pretty solid wall between the outside world and our inner thoughts. But during a bifurcated state, like what can happen under anesthesia or in an NDE, that wall just dissolves. The brain's internal world becomes just as real and sometimes maybe even more real than physical reality itself.
But here is where it gets really fascinating. When people come out of this state, they're not left confused or damaged. In a surprising number of cases, they come out enhanced.
So, the key takeaway is that this isn't brain damage, it's a system reset. This incredibly intense experience acts as this powerful trigger for neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing ability to rewire itself. It's a kind of controlled disruption that leads to a deep, fundamental realignment of how the brain works.
And the data on this is just compelling. After these experiences, people frequently report a way stronger sense of purpose, a brand new clarity, and, most importantly for what we're talking about, enhanced logical reasoning and determination. And this isn't just a vague feeling, it's a measurable cognitive shift.
Okay, so this whole neurological reboot thing isn't just some random biological quirk. As we're about to see, it lines up perfectly with a really powerful theory of learning and problem solving, which gives it a clear, logical framework.
And that connection comes from a framework developed by a strategist named Dennis Verhaage. It's called the Go approach. Now, this isn't a theory from neuroscience. It's a model for high-stakes problem solving that's all about iterative learning and being cognitively flexible. But what's so incredible is that the cognitive boosts seen after an NDE, that jump in logic and determination, they perfectly mirror the outcomes of this structured approach. It's almost as if the brain, when it's under extreme pressure, instinctively runs this exact program on itself.
This slide just shows the parallel so beautifully. It doesn't matter if it's through the biological shock of an NDE or through a deliberate, structured learning process like the Go approach. The end result is exactly the same: a more capable, more autonomous, and more strategic mind. Two different paths, one amazing destination.
There's even a philosophical concept that helps us frame this whole process. It's called syntax. It's this idea of a suspension of our normal experience that isn't just an empty void, but a highly structured, meaningful event. And the perfect example is medical anesthesia. The word originally means without sensation, but we're now seeing it as a state of controlled physiological disruption. This idea of a structured suspension is exactly what we're seeing in NDEs.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Suspension is not chaos, but a deliberate, meaningful rearrangement. The brain isn't just failing or going haywire. It is actively reorganizing itself, and it's doing it according to these deeper logical principles. The disruption, it turns out, has a profound purpose.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, we're literally watching a profound human experience move from the fringes of mystery and land on the solid ground of actionable science.
This isn't just speculation anymore. The incredible precision that the brain shows, modulating its own activity to produce these organized, transformative experiences during a crisis. That is hard evidence of this actionable logic at work.
And you can actually see this state of cognitive mastery in certain archetypes. Think about the classic fictional super spy, someone like James Bond. What defines them? A highly controlled, strategically logical, and emotionally resilient mind. These figures, they represent the peak form of this ability. They don't just survive disruption, they master it, and they use it to their advantage.
So ultimately, when you boil it all down, the evidence completely reframes near-death experiences. They're not mystical woo. They are a powerful demonstration of the brain's incredible, built-in capacity for a logical, structured, and ultimately enhancing reboot.
And that leaves us with a truly provocative thought. If our brains have this built-in mechanism for upgrading their own software, what if we could learn to harness this process of controlled disruption? Could we actually achieve this kind of cognitive enhancement without having to stare death in the face to do it?